Board yet? All right, so let me do that. We're recording and let's jump into it. So, for those of you, which is most of you, have been around the last couple weeks, gosh, I hit on, I felt like I was a fire hydrant coming at you guys with information on specifically cholesterol and some myths and truths around high cholesterol and high lipids in general. And one of the things, and so if you're interested in that subject, and hopefully you guys pass that talk along to someone, because in last week specifically, I hit on statin medications pretty hard. So if you know someone who takes statin medications, they need to hear some of this stuff. So that talk is in the library. I don't remember what folder I put it in, but if you need it and you can't find it, send me a message and I'll send you the link. Um, but in that talk over the last couple of weeks, in that kind of subject matter, I mentioned metabolic, specifically cardiometabolic health, a couple times. And so I'm going to dive into a little bit more detail because I just kind of skimmed the surface on that. I'm going to dive into a little bit more detail in that specific subject tonight. And not that this should be the focus, but I know so many of you guys, one of your main goals is weight loss, right? And I just don't love to focus on that because there's so many other things that are important. Now, weight is important, body fat percentage versus skeletal muscle mass. It's so important in your health, and that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight with cardiometabolic health. Um, but what you're going to see tonight, which I think most of you know this, but I know a number of you guys have expressed to me lately that the frustration is kind of there, which, gosh, you're not seeing the scale move yet. And it's been maybe a month, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months for some of you. And we're going to address some of those things a little bit more detail tonight as to why that probably is. Okay. So you can be doing all of the right things and still not have that scale budge. It does not mean it will not at some point. Oops. I need to share my screen. I thought I was sharing and I wasn't. It's not that it's not going to at some point, but so many other things oftentimes have to happen in your body with your physiology, with your chemistry, with your hormones before those kind of changes are gonna happen, which we all want to see, right? So don't get too frustrated. Have a little patience. I know that's easier said than done, but just have faith and believe. So, what does metabolic health even mean, and why is it crucial to your overall health? That's kind of what we're going to come at you tonight with. So, at the top, if you can't lose weight, has your doctor told you that? And here's the deal: some of you feel like, well, shoot, I can't lose weight, and I'm working with Dr. Scott. So, I've told you guys this, and some of you guys who are new, maybe you haven't heard this. So I'm gonna tell you these things tonight because these are really, really important concepts to understand if you're struggling in this way. Now, again, I'm gonna reemphasize weight is just one small part, one small puzzle piece that we're kind of like talking about right now, but this goes way deeper than that as far as like how this all impacts your health. Okay, so 1 in 3 people, and that's probably at the low end. It's probably closer to 50% are pre-diabetic right now walking around in our country. 80% of those 50% or 25% or 33.3%, whatever percent it is, they have no idea. Okay. Even low levels of insulin resistance can lead to weight gain. So I know a lot of you guys that we've done blood work with, insulin needs to be really spot on in order for this kind of thing to happen, for weight loss especially. Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. 60% of people with a thyroid disorder are completely unaware of it, and an underactive or hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune hypothyroidism, can slow your metabolism so much and make weight loss even more challenging. Now, here's the thing is most people who have one of these have the other as well. So it's like a two strikes already. Like a lot of people who have blood sugar regulation issues and insulin resistance have thyroid issues as well. They work so much in synchrony with each other. And if you have no idea what the thyroid gland is, it's right there, kind of in the lower part of your throat. So palpate it, obviously you can always self-examine, make sure you don't feel any lumps or things. It's always good to get a physical exam from your physician if they don't do that too. So chronic infections like Candida, which is a yeast, a lot of you guys know that because we found that in your gut and stool samples, or SIBO, which stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So a bacterial overgrowth in your small intestine. These things, and these are just two examples, any kind of dysbiosis in your gut leads to inflammation, which is going to cause a sluggish metabolism, right? We all know what is metabolism. Having a good metabolism burns calories and fat for energy. And that's going to lead to weight gain and other health issues, of course, as well. So you got to realize you got to heal the gut. The gut takes a long time to heal. Getting your blood sugar and insulin, getting those regulated takes a long time to do, and diligence. Getting your thyroid under control takes a long time, right? Especially the longer these things have gone on. So I hope you guys are kind of getting the point here. And then the last one, we're all spraying this crap on our lawns. And if you're not, your neighbors are, and the parks and recs is, and oh my gosh, it's everywhere. So environmental toxins, pesticides, herbicides, even plastics. We talk about this, of course, a lot with you guys is get rid of plastic containers, get with your food storage and just everything you can do to get plastic out of your life, because these things are factually known to be endocrine disruptors. Xenoestrogens, I've done talks on these in the past that are in your library. If you're interested in hormones, men, testosterone, man, xenoestrogens are going to wreck your testosterone. Females, xenoestrogens are going to wreck your progesterone and estrogen and testosterone. You ladies, you need testosterone as well. And a lot of you guys are really low in testosterone. And that's going to all affect the metabolism and all those hormones, okay? Which is going to stunt weight loss efforts as well. Nutrient deficiencies like vitamin D, magnesium, or iron are three of the big ones, can impair your body's ability to mobilize and metabolize fat. Okay, so wintertime, most of you guys are taking vitamin D, liquid, vitamin D with K2 is the best form. And in the winter months, obviously, we usually want to up the dose. Okay, so but always checking that. I like to check that every few months in everybody as far as vitamin D levels in blood. Magnesium, it's a little harder. If you don't know this, I'm kind of going a little deep here, but if your doctor does magnesium in your blood, and I do that in a lot of you guys, it's called red blood cell magnesium. It's better than nothing, but it still doesn't show the whole picture. Because magnesium is stored in your body in various places, like your hair and your bones. And so actually you can do hair samples like you would do like a heavy metal toxicity test, and that can actually show you better and more accurate how much magnesium is actually in your body if you're deficient or not. Okay, and then iron, of course, everybody knows what iron is. These two supplements, a lot of you guys take these, but the Thorne product is great. Other than I've had some good complaints about they don't have a dropper with it, right? Like, does anybody have that problem? Is anybody else annoyed with Thorne's vitamin D? Like the little thing on the top doesn't work very well. Yeah, right. I see some hands. I know. I don't know. I tried to send them a message. I don't know why they haven't figured that out yet, but it's a great product other than that. And then the Mag Max. The reason I like Mag Max, if you're looking for a magnesium, and we haven't talked about this specifically, there are a lot of different forms of magnesium. Okay, I'm not going to go in that to that tonight, but different forms of magnesium have been shown to benefit health in different ways. Some of them help stool, constipation. Some of them help with headaches. Some of them help with various other things, mental health. And so you want really what my suggestion is you take like a multi-magnesium. So you get a lot of different forms, and that's what Mag Max is. All right, sleep. And here's the deal. A lot of us have struggles with sleep. Not only quality of sleep, but maybe we're not getting enough sleep. Maybe we think we're okay with 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And I'll tell you what, it's tough because I used to be like that. I used to be like, man, I got 5 hours of sleep every night and I felt fine for a while. But man, over the years, it really caught up to me, and this can actually disrupt hunger hormones and compels us to overeat, late night snack, which definitely was an issue that I had, cravings and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about those hormones in just a while, more in depth. And then, of course, chronic stress. Chronic stress increases cortisol levels, leading to weight gain, in particular around the midsection. So if you're noticing, if I think a lot of you guys have heard this before, probably, but like there's different stress hormones and different hormones that cause weight gain in certain areas, and there's a lot of truth to that. So cortisol being all out of whack typically leads to more weight gain around the belly area. Okay, so I really kind of like this little picture. I just saw this not long ago. And it's kind of like represents kind of the cortisol curve. Because if you don't know this, cortisol should be really low at night. You know, you shouldn't be stressed out at night. It should spike to its greatest level within 30 minutes of waking up in the morning. One of the things you can do to help that is called the cortisol awakening response, is get sunlight in your eyes as early as possible to sunrise, okay, close to sunrise. And that's kind of what this, if you can see that, I know it's small, but like good cortisol levels really, really have a lot to do with mental health and mood as well. So optimism, excitement, thrill, and then euphoria is like at that peak level. But then if it starts to crash through the day, if it's like you just can't maintain those levels, then you start getting into some of the bad stuff, like really low cortisol. You need cortisol. Cortisol kind of gets a bad name for being too high and elevated in people, but there's a lot of people who it's too low as well. And if it's too low, that's going to be more of the stuff that's going to show signs and symptoms of depression and things like that. Okay. So I thought it was an interesting little picture that had to do with cortisol. All right. So metabolic health. What in the world is it? It's basically, we look at blood sugar levels, blood pressure, waist circumference, triglyceride levels, cholesterol levels, and insulin levels. Those are the kind of the markers mostly that we look at. Now, I showed you guys this picture if you were on last week. This is the standard that I guess, I don't know if it was the government or whoever, whatever agency decided like what is good, quote unquote, metabolic health. Okay. Now, the reason that's in quotes because a lot of us don't believe this is very good, actually. Now, 120 over 80 blood pressure. Okay. That's okay. But fasting glucose less than 100, like that's like 100 is pre-diabetes. Like, so if you're floating in the mid 90s and upper 90s forever, you're going to have insulin resistance eventually. So that is not good metabolic health. We want fasting glucose down in the 80s. Triglycerides 150, okay, that's okay, but down by 100 would be better. Waist circumference, men less than 40 inches, women less than 34 inches. That's still, again, it's not the best metabolic health because we know belly fat and the bigger the waist circumference, we're going to talk about it more in detail in a minute, but it leads to a lot of issues. HDL cholesterol greater than 50. Yeah, greater than 50 is great. 70 and 80 is better, right? 50, not that great. 60, okay. 70, 80, way better. Hemoglobin A1C, which is another blood sugar marker. So that's the blood sugar marker that we do with fasting glucose. Less than 5.7. Well, 5.7 is pre-diabetes. Again, it's like you're going to have insulin resistance if you're floating at 5.5, 5.6, 5.7 forever. Okay. So it's just a matter of time. So just keep that in mind whenever you're looking at things like this diagram. So that's kind of what's out there. So we want more optimal levels, not just settling for this good stuff. So when your metabolic health is in order, when you have these things, when you start getting these things in order over time, your body is efficiency in using energy. You're going to maintain a healthier weight. You're going to start losing weight, and you're going to start improving inflammatory responses in your body as well, which I think most of you guys know at this point. Inflammation is one of the things that underlies every single, well, I was going to say chronic disease and health issue, but really every single health issue known to man. There's some sort of inflammatory response going on, right? That's just the truth of it. So the more we can minimize and help inflammation, obviously the better. Okay. Hormones. Oh, how many of us want, oh man, hormones. Hormones are complicated. And of course, a lot of us know we have hormone dysregulation. You're not going to have optimal hormone function if you're not metabolically healthy. Okay. So there's a lot of top leading experts. And I know a lot of you guys have heard other people other than me say this, hormone experts that like, even when hormones are dysregulated, women, ladies, premenopause, postmenopause, hormones are out of whack, all these signs and symptoms. Yes, we need to pay attention to that, but you got to get other things in order, and the hormones eventually will help level off. And if they don't, that's when we start thinking about something like hormone replacement therapy. Does that make sense? There's like an order, a batting order to this stuff. What are those things? Gut health, okay, and then this whole thing we call metabolic health. This metabolic health category is absolutely just essential. And men too. I said women, but men, dudes. Like I got a couple of you on tonight. Thank goodness. I went a long time with just all ladies. I love you ladies, but man, men, Tucker, Roman, yeah. All right, here we go. We got some more testosterone in the room. I love it. Um, what else do I have to say? Oh, and this was the stat, guys. 2018, 94% of US adults, this was the study that was done of like 55,000 people. This was not a small study. 94% of US adults have poor metabolic health. It's likely worse now. Because I actually had some stats in here over the COVID time, and I took them out because I already knew we were going to run on time. But it was crazy. I mean, they did like 6 month studies during like that first year of COVID and like just being in lockdowns and like just people probably being depressed and lonely. I mean, who knows, drinking more. I mean, all of these things, they did all these studies showing this. I mean, in the years after COVID, it's just like, it's just worse. I wouldn't doubt if, this was 96, 97% right now. Okay. So, thank God you guys are here, right? Doing something about it. So get those loved ones and friends and family to do something about it too. Now, here's an important line because not everybody is overweight that has metabolic issues. You can be thin and look and appear healthy. How many of us know someone who looks healthy, thin, maybe they're even like really in really good shape, and then they have a cardiovascular event, a heart attack, a stroke. I mean, we all know people in that boat, or who end up with diabetes. I mean, it happens all the time. So cardiometabolic health is not just talking about those who have have the larger size, right? It's just not the truth. So please hear me when I say that. Because I think people get so tunnel visioned into, oh, you have to be obese or overweight in order for this to apply. Not true in the slightest bit. Busted metabolism or busted cardiometabolic health. This is some of the things that people don't realize. So I'm going to run through this real quick. Obviously, obesity rates increase. Cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure is the first sign, but cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure medications are not going to fix. Like high blood pressure medications are a band-aid to like prolong a cardiovascular event from likely happening, right? It's just the truth. So please get these people that you know are on these medications. Like hopefully they want to do something about it because that's the first step. They got to want to change. But lifestyle change is the only thing that's going to actually help them fix them. Organ damage body-wide, creeping cognitive dysfunction, so dementia, Alzheimer's. We've talked about these a lot in the past, and metabolic health is so crucial to that. Osteoarthritis, oh my gosh, knees and hips and shoulders and hands and all the places that we all ache. It's also known as diabetes of the joints, if you've never heard that, right? Kind of like Alzheimer's is now characterized as type 3 diabetes, like these blood sugar, insulin resistance, metabolic health issues. More research is showing that's why we're starting to call osteoarthritis diabetes of the joints, why we're calling osteoporosis diabetes of the bones. Because all of these things are linked to this issue. Inflammation in the whole body, of course, I already said that. Cancer is going to be more apt to happen. Infertility, so younger females. I know I have a few patients right now that I'm working with that are, hormones and infertility and endometriosis and PCOS. Oh my gosh, guys, all of this stuff has skyrocketed over the last 10 years or so. And it's absolutely just insane. And it's also very sad. But this is one of the cornerstones of what's going on in people, cardiometabolic health. Hormonal imbalances go right along with that. Epigenetics leading, obviously genetic stuff going downstream, and then immune suppression. You're obviously going to be more at risk and susceptible with infections, viruses, pneumonia, all that kind of stuff. How many of you guys have stayed pretty healthy this winter so far? Knock on wood. Okay, good. I see a lot of hands. That's awesome. I don't know about you guys, but it used to be like I used to be one of those people where it was like, it's winter. When's the first thing gonna hit my house and me? When, how many times this winter am I gonna have stuff? And I don't remember the last time I was sick, like I had to take off work. Like, get yourself healthy and your immune system is gonna be able to beat this stuff so much more effectively. All right, so 7 signs that you need to improve metabolic health. Okay, so what I said here, this first little paragraph, whoops, wrong button, is, a lot of you guys probably know this stuff. Those of you who've been around for a while with me know these things. But the last little sentence there's think about, maybe ask your family members or friends or coworkers, but really, if you kind of feel like, oh, that, I might offend them or something, think about it. Just think about your husband, your wife, your sister, your brother, your mom, your dad. Just think about how many of these things would the people in your life, how many boxes would you check? Unexplained weight gain. So if you're gaining weight, especially again around the midsection, and you haven't changed diet and exercise routines, maybe you're even exercising more and dieting more, eating healthier, that can be a huge sign of metabolic dysfunction. Abdominal fat is particularly concerning as it's very closely, like we said earlier, linked to insulin resistance. Number 2, constant or chronic fatigue. This was me. This was me. You guys, most of you guys know that was my main thing. 8, 10 years ago, I could not get through a clinic day. Like I treated patients all day, and man, without like coffee, energy drinks, something. And then I'd get home at night and I would just be miserable and exhausted. And it's like I was doing all the right things. I was checking all the boxes. I've always eaten well. I've always been, well, I shouldn't say always. In my adult life, since I've known, uh, is eat well, and fitness and all that has always been a part of my life. But man, chronic fatigue, not normal. It's not okay. Okay, so that's going to be a big sign. Number 3, difficulty losing weight. So again, kind of like that unexplained weight gain. If we're just like, man, nothing's budging, nothing's happening, this is still something we need to work on. Okay. Number 4 is cravings for sugary or high carb foods. So, man, that picture on the right, does that look delicious to anybody? I'll tell you, I'm not even making this up. I used to have the biggest sweet tooth. I would look at a picture like that and I'd probably start salivating. And like, I would probably end up going to Dairy Queen just from seeing a picture like this and getting ice cream later tonight because I was that like so much sugar cravings. And now it's like I see stuff like this and it's almost like makes me like, ugh, like I know that's going to make me feel terrible if I have that stuff. Right. So hopefully at some point, if you haven't gotten there, that's where you guys will get to. So your body is just craving like those quick energy sources, basically. So that's a big sign of poor metabolic health. And number 5 is high blood pressure. So we don't need to say any more about that because it's just a fact. Number 6, elevated blood sugar levels. This is harder to know, right? You have to have your blood work done, your fasting blood work done. And this is one of the reasons I encourage you guys to do blood work every 3 months or so, because an annual physical, you could go in and get your blood sugars drawn and maybe it's normal today, but and a lot of times they're not even running hemoglobin A1C. I still don't know why, but a lot of docs don't do that. If you don't know, hemoglobin A1C is a 3-month average kind of what your blood sugars have been. So it's very much more accurate than like a one-time deal. But just like vitamin D, which is good to take multiple times a year to see what levels you're at, to see how much you need to take in addition in a supplement, I think the same thing's true with blood sugar and also with insulin to make sure these levels are good. Now, aside from blood work, I don't know if anybody in this group has ever done this. I have not personally, but you've heard of continuous blood glucose monitors. You see people with diabetes wear the things like on their arms or their thighs or their belly. That's becoming more and more common. That it costs a pretty penny. I think there's a membership you can get through a company called NutriSense. Is one company. I know there's others, but it's like $250 a month. There's a ton of support with it. There's a ton of support. Like it's an amazing company that will really help you if you really are like, man, this is something I need to get on top of, a continuous blood glucose monitor. Plug that away in your brain because I don't push that on you guys, but it is something like, man, that's the best way to do it because it's constantly telling you what your blood sugar levels are so you can really figure out your body. Okay, and number 7 is poor sleep quality. All right, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that in just a second. So anyway, I said this earlier, if you're still experiencing, if you've been in this program for a while, or if you're new, it doesn't really matter. If you're experiencing some of these symptoms, you got to keep these things in mind, which I think I opened with this one, redundant right now, but how long did it take you to get where you're at? Right? How long did it take us to get where we're at? I'm 41 years old. If I hadn't have changed things 8 to 10 years ago, and even less than that, 5 years ago is when I really, really attacked this stuff with myself. Um, I could have said, well, it took 35 years to get here, so it's going to take a while to unravel that, to undo that. And it did. It took me probably 8 months to a year before I really, really, really knew I was like doing good. Okay. So number 2, evaluate and then reevaluate if there are any of the areas we're talking about tonight that you could refine, or maybe you just haven't redressed them yet. So I always tell you guys this, you can't change everything at once. You just can't do that. It's unsustainable, it's unrealistic, and man, that would just be too much. So this is why this is a lifestyle, right? But continue to look at your goal sheets, continue to think about all the things we've talked about. Maybe for you, it's, you haven't gone all glass in your kitchen, like storage for food. Maybe your husband or your wife or your neighbor still spraying your lawn with pesticides. Maybe you still are using Axe body wash with chemicals in it or whatever. Guys, I'm just throwing out examples. Maybe you haven't addressed those areas yet. Those are the things to start reevaluating, refining, and kind of continue to add to your list of things to change in your life. And over time, it's going to pay off. I know it. I guarantee it if you stick to it. So here's a checklist of things to think about and look at. Number 1, circadian rhythm, sleep-wake cycle. So early morning sunlight and then afternoon, evening sunlight. Those are probably 2 of the best things you can do for your circadian rhythm. If you're having trouble sleeping, get those things done. Number 2, good gut health, regular bowel movements. That is a loaded one. Of course, you guys all know that because that is where most people's problems start, is in their gut. And that can take a while to heal, but it's absolutely crucial. Daily sunlight, kind of already said that with morning and late, but daily, get outside if you can, if it's not terrible out, just to get that sunlight in your eyes, get it on your skin for vitamin D. Strength training for lean mass. Can't emphasize that enough. I know a lot of you guys I've talked to about this and you haven't quite got to the step of incorporating some resistance training. There are many experts and mentors of mine, like some of the most brilliant people, that they literally will say, the first thing I require my patients to do is start strength training. Whether, no matter what they have going on, mental health issues, hormone dysregulation, doesn't matter. Strength training, because it's not just about how we look. It's about how skeletal lean muscle mass has an effect on this thing we call cardiometabolic health. It's going to improve your blood sugar levels. It's going to improve your insulin, not having insulin resistance. It's going to improve your hormones. So many things. So try to start doing that. And number 5, strength training. But aside from strength training, just move your body. Pilates, yoga, stretching, walking, all the things. Water, aqua therapy, swimming. Such good stuff that we can all do. Number 6, eating adequate animal proteins and healthy fats. Protein, again, you guys know this. Other than specific situations, like if someone has kidney disorders and kidney issues, we got to be careful with protein. Other than that, protein is like the most, and amino acids in general, I mean, it's just the building blocks of our lives, right? And healthy fats go right along with that. Okay, what are healthy fats? I shouldn't ever skim over. Avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil. Those would be my 3 top ones. Okay, stay away from seed oils, vegetable oils, canola oil, all that crap. Number 7, stress. Stress, okay, that's a huge subject, but stress, physical stress, okay, emotional stress, and the chemical stress that we just talked about a while ago, pesticides, herbicides, all the stuff. Okay, so you got to think about all 3 of those areas if you haven't yet. Number 8, I mean, this is kind of like some people would be like roll their eyes at this kind of stuff, but this is real stuff. Like live your life on purpose. Are you doing what you're meant to do in life? I know for a long time I wasn't. I was miserable. I was miserable in my work. I was miserable in my job. I was miserable everywhere. I was burnt out with everything. It's like, man, that's such a drain. So do the things you love. Maybe you're stuck in a job, but outside of that, do other things that you love. Find hobbies, find friends, family, whatever it is. You got to make sure you do that on purpose. And number nine, healthy relationships. Of course, that's easier said than done a lot of times, but working on that always, always, always is a healthy thing. I had to throw a couple, and we're going to run on time here in a minute, here in a few minutes, but I had to throw a few things in here because I know so many of you guys have struggled and are struggling with sleep slash circadian rhythms. Um, so, because I don't know necessarily if I've ever talked about this before, not getting enough quality sleep disrupts your hormones like crazy. Okay. Specifically, if you've never heard of leptin and ghrelin, I think that's how you say it, ghrelin, whatever, they regulate hunger and also metabolism. So if you're not getting good quality deep sleep over time, that's going to impact those two hormones and also lead to insulin resistance, weight gain, uh, obviously increase appetite for unhealthy foods, the cravings we talked about earlier. Okay, so all of these things kind of come full circle with that. Insulin sensitivity. Okay, during sleep, your body actually improves its sensitivity to insulin, which we want. We want our cells to be very receptive to insulin. Okay, so and of course you probably know this, but the insulin is the hormone that opens the floodgates to our cells to allow sugar in. We want sugar in our cells to go into the mitochondria to be used for energy, right? That's the purpose of sugar. However, sleep deprivation can impair that process, leading to elevated blood sugar levels and increased of insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, etc. Okay, so all of this has to do. Sleep does impact this a lot. So if you're struggling with weight loss resistance, blood sugar, all these things we're talking about, check your sleep, right? Somehow we got to figure out how to get you to sleep better. Hunger hormones. So again, I already said the ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, so it increases with sleep deprivation. So it's going to make you feel hungrier more often. Okay, ever thought about that? Um, and leptin signals your brain to be full. You're satisfied, right? That satiety feeling. So we want that one, of course, we want both of these to be working properly, and sleep has a lot to do with those two hormones. And then cortisol, your primary stress hormone, I talked about earlier. Sleep deprivation also elevates cortisol. Chronically high cortisol levels promote fat storage, especially again around the abdomen. Said that about 5 times already. And it interferes with your body's ability to burn fat efficiently. Okay, so cortisol, let me put it this way. I'll try to explain this simply. High cortisol, one of cortisol's main jobs, we think of it as like a stress hormone, right? Like adrenaline and cortisol, fight flight mode, right? One of the things that it does is it releases sugar that's stored in your muscles and other places in your body, your liver. It tells that sugar to be released because we're in fight or flight mode. Like we need energy. Does that make sense? So chronically high levels of cortisol, which so many of us have, that sugar is constantly getting dumped into our bloodstream. So what happens? Two things happen. Eventually, you're going to have insulin resistance. Your cells are going to be like overwhelmed. They're going to start shutting down the portways into them for the sugar to get in. Okay, so where does the sugar then go? It's not going to go into your cells to make energy. It's going to get stored in fat cells. Okay, so this is one of the reasons that high cortisol and stress can lead to weight gain and weight loss resistance as well. Studies have actually shown that people who sleep fewer than 7 hours a night, adults, okay, kids are different, but adults who sleep 7 hours or less a night are more likely to develop obesity and metabolic syndrome. Again, that does not have to be obesity because metabolic syndrome can be in thin people too, compared to those who get sufficient rest. Okay. And then a couple more things about stress. I think we're almost done here. Oh, I already said this. See, I get so excited. I get ahead of myself and then I don't even have to cover what's on this one. I think I said all of this stuff. Let me just make sure. Yeah, already talked about it. Already talked about it. So insulin unlocks the doors for sugar to go in. Said that. Said that. Okay, well, here, this last paragraph, I don't think I specifically said, but if you get into the real complexities of this, which is really fascinating, is the cells. So as you become insulin resistant, the cells then become like opposite of what I just said. They're literally like going to tell the brain, they send signals to your brain that they're starving. Like insulin resistance leads to going into fat cells. It's not going to get into the cells that need it. So they're starving, and the brain's going to know that. Okay, which is crazy. It's fascinating anyway. And then that can actually lead to overeating and poor choices and unhealthy and all the cravings. And, we want sugar and we want high carb diets and all the things, right? So again, it's just oftentimes turns into a vicious cycle. There are a lot of experts who estimate that 90% or more Americans are insulin resistant. Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. 90%. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense if 94% of us in that other study are cardiometabolically unhealthy. Insulin resistance is a huge part of that. Okay. So if you guys want to know why I harp and harp and harp and preach on this stuff, it's a big deal. Okay. Think about kids this day and age. Man, just look around. Not only overweight, I mean, we got more overweight kids now than ever, number one. But again, it's not just overweight kids. Look at the lean kids. Look at the kids who look skinny, but they're eating Cheetos out of a bag or, whatever. Can't, they're always sucking on a sucker, or it's crazy. Kids are dying, man. We are killing that generation slowly. It's just a matter of time, and hopefully some of these governmental things like the red dye thing will help. But again, it comes down to choices as well and people just having the knowledge because a lot of people like they just don't even understand what that's actually doing. So again, if you're lovingly tell people don't feed your kid Cheetos anymore. Okay, no, insulin resistance is literally the number one cause of lifestyle induced and age related illness in the entire world. Reversible. It is 100% reversible and 100% in your control with lifestyle management. No medications out there, and there probably will never be. There will never be a medication that's going to fix this stuff. Okay, there are medications that will mask. There are medications that will band-aid. There is no medication. There's no pill. There's no supplement that's going to fix this stuff. Okay, so 100% reversible and 100% in you guys' control. So encourage you guys. Obviously, a lot of you guys are doing awesome. You're doing awesome. You're staying the course. You're being good days, bad days. Kind of like Nicole said earlier, man. Busy week, stressful week. It's like, but you're staying the course, right? You get off track. It's okay. Get back on track, right? That's what it's all about. We talked about that after the holidays too, because who doesn't get off track in the holidays, right? The solution to all of this is very simple, but it's not easy. So again, if you're going to give someone who has no idea any of this science of any of this, but you're like, do these things and you're going to start improving over time, you're going to lift weights, you're going to walk often, preferably outside to get sun. You're going to cut out refined sugars and high fructose corn syrup and other seed oils, vegetable oils. All that crap is gone out of your cupboards. Okay, and the other thing is about eating out, cooking at every meal at home. I know sometimes that's unrealistic in our culture. It is for me. Sometimes we just do, but it's like, yeah, most restaurants are using vegetable oils and seed oils because they're cheaper, right? So again, you just got to think about that. Even the healthy places are going to usually use those kind of things. Get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Avoid refined carbs. Lower one's stress. That's easier said than done, but work on it. That's all you got to do is work on it. And then honor the circadian rhythm by getting that early morning and afternoon sunlight. Intermittent fasting, which really, a lot of people think that means like you're starving yourself for a long time. I do a 16-hour intermittent fast. That's just what I've done for a long time. It works well for me. Does not work for everybody, but you're fasting if you just stop eating after dinner and then don't eat until dawn to dusk, dusk to dawn, whatever. So 12 hours. That's a fast. 12-hour fast, right? You're fasting 50% of your day, which is really good. So try not to eat late at night. Basically, is the point. Get adequate protein. I prefer animal protein that's raised correctly. So there's resources if you're new to the program. There's resources for good quality animal products in the documents section area, and know what your blood sugars are doing. And we're gonna stop there because it is 9:15. I had a couple things on hormones, but honestly, guys, I think hormones are another tough. I'm gonna go deeper into some hormone stuff. Probably not too long, not too long. So, does anybody have any questions about anything I covered tonight? So it's 9:15. I always try to do my best to end at 9:15. You guys know that. So if you have to go, bye bye. Love you all. Get a good night's sleep. Get that 7 to 8 hours. But if someone does have questions, I'm happy to stick around for another few minutes. Okay. So with that, I bid you adieu. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll be here for questions if anybody has any. See y'all later. Yeah, Tucker, you betcha.